I love days like this. I love news days like this. There's so much to show you. Here's Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. People turned out to stand up for science. That was the name of the protest, to protest against the Trump administration's indiscriminate cuts to science in all ways. You can see some of the signs here. Fight for science, defend the NIH, defunding research is a recession plan. That's actually quite true. Here's a good one. Quote, budget cuts create all kinds of trouble. I had to look that up. Alkynes, A-L-K-Y-N-E-S, alkynes are organic molecules made of the functional group carbon-carbon triple bonds. They are unsaturated hydrocarbons. And budget cuts create all kinds of trouble. Here's another good one in Pittsburgh. Got polio? No? Thanks, science. And you see where it says it's a Berg thing and the Salk vaccine there. The University of Pittsburgh is where Jonas Salk developed the polio vaccine. Across the state of Pennsylvania, outside City Hall in Philadelphia, look at this. This was this is impressive. This was the Stand Up for Science crowd outside Philly City Hall today. That's a big, look at that. That's a really big protest. Some good signs at the Philly protest as well. Your policy, defund the NIH, has been rejected by peer review. This is a good one. I feel like this one is special for Susan's birthday today. She loves Beaker from the Muppets. Susan, this happened in Philly today. This is the only orange Muppet I trust to tell me about science. Meep. A version of this sign we saw a few different places today. I love trans mice. All right. I know you didn't listen to Trump's speech to Congress this week. I saw the numbers. It was the least watched Trump State of the Union or joint speech to Congress of all the ones he's given. So I know you didn't watch. But one of the things he said in his speech was that one of the terrible liberal things that his top campaign donor had discovered was happening in government was research to make mice transgender. And he said that in his speech, and all the Republicans gasped and laughed and jeered because that was so terrible. Actually, it's transgenic mice. And transgenic mice are used in all kinds of laboratory research because mice are transgenic when they have been genetically altered so you can study human illnesses and conditions in them even though they're mice. It is transgenic mice, you numbskulls. But sure, go ahead and shut down all the labs studying all the diseases, because what are you, 5? This was Boston. There were big crowds today in Boston as well. Stand up for science. Some signs in Boston. No science means no medicine, no tech, no progress, no future. Also this one, cut DNA, not the NIH. Genetics research and experimentation. Of course, because it's Boston, there's a Dunkin' Donuts sign. America runs on science. In Madison, Wisconsin, local public radio there put the turnout at what they described as more than 1,000 at the Stand Up for Science protest at the Wisconsin State Capitol. Wisconsin Democratic Party Chairman Ben Wickler said he was there and he thought the crowd was even larger than that. He also singled out his favorite sign in Madison, which was, quote, no science, no cheese. It's Wisconsin. Really, really big crowd turned out in New York City at Washington Square Park to protest against Trump's cuts to science. Look at that. Cold day, cold, windy day today in New York City. 9 out of 10 preventable diseases prefer the GOP. Every disaster movie begins with a politician ignoring science. See the one on the left there? It was a cold, miserable Chicago winter day today in the Windy City, but people turned out in big numbers in Chicago as well to protest. In addition to all the scientists and supporters and regular people who showed up, they also got some high-level representation from their members of Congress, including Senator Dick Durbin and Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. In Atlanta, there were big crowds in Atlanta at Liberty Plaza. Atlanta, of course, is home to the CDC, which Trump has whacked with big cuts and huge numbers of firings. People turned out in the South, in Little Rock, Arkansas, on the state capitol steps. Stand up for science. People turned out in Lansing, Michigan, with signs supporting the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. We love NOAA, so stop firing the darn meteorologists and the people who run the freaking weather radar. People turned out in St. Louis, Missouri, which is a good science sign. Time to react with the steaming beaker. Raleigh, North Carolina, part of what they love to call the research triangle. But here are researchers and scientists and their supporters and regular folks having to come out in Raleigh, North Carolina today, protesting against Donald Trump's massive cuts to scientific research.
Welcome back to the weekend. So Democrats are going on offense after Donald Trump seemed to flip-flop on how much authority he's giving Elon Musk, all the federal government. NBC News reports that Trump told his cabinet secretaries this week that it's they who have ultimate firing authority, not Musk. But it's still unclear whether Trump actually means that, because less than 2 weeks ago, Trump urged Musk to be even more aggressive with his cuts. So which is it? Either way, the confusion has encouraged and spurred Democrats to host town halls like this one in Haymarket, Virginia, to hear directly from voters caught in the chaos, especially after Republicans were advised to avoid holding down their own, town halls in their neighborhoods so they can face the wrath of angry voters. Don't want to do that now, do we? Joining us now is the host of that town hall, Democratic Congressman Suha Subramanian of Virginia. He sits on the House Oversight Committee. Welcome, Congressman, to the table.
Thanks for having me.
We're just going to play a little sound from your town hall. And I'd like to note that, Congressman, you were doing town halls before this directive went out to House Democrats to do more town halls. And I think after we see this footage, we'll see why. Take a listen.
Yeah.
Having served my country both in the military and afterwards, to be said that I'm being terminated for performance issues, which is utterly untrue, just cut me to the quick.
We have seen time and again over the last month where these people are literally destroying lives indiscriminately. Our story is one of far too many, and this madness needs to stop.
The benefit isn't going to the veteran. They're losing talent, they're losing advocates, and all that I ask is you fight this with the same passion and drive that the people that serve on the federal side do.
All I ask is that you fight this with the same passion and drive that the people who serve on the federal side do. It seems to me when we talk about being the thermometer, taking the temperature of where the people are, at least in your district, people seem pissed, tired, and they want you to do something.
But it's also very brave people, very relentless and brave people protesting, engaging in civil disobedience. People are willing to be arrested if necessary. It's also people peacefully protesting in the streets. Look, this was Boise, Idaho yesterday. This is at the capital of one of the most conservative states in the country. This is Boise, Idaho. People protesting against Trump in the lead up to his State of the Union address last night. This was Phoenix, Arizona yesterday. Another big crowd protesting at their state capitol ahead of Trump's speech last night. Look at the numbers that turned out yesterday in Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Look at this. Utah, bright red Utah. Look at the people who turned out in Little Corning, New York, and in Bakersfield, California, and in West Hartford, Connecticut, and outside the office of the Office of Personnel Management in Washington, D.C. Pushback takes all forms. And it has turned them back, or at least slowed them down, on almost everything they have tried to do already. And it's easy to get overwhelmed with what they're trying to do. But look also at what they have been stopped from doing, what they have been slowed down from doing, what they've been embarrassed over, and what they've had to quietly claw back, hoping no one notices. I mean, they're clearly bent on an authoritarian takeover and destruction of the U.S. government, right? There's no illusions now as to what they're trying to do. They know they need to go fast if they are going to go far. Today, the headline showed the increasing scope of their appetite, right, to try to destroy more and do it more thoroughly. They want to fire 80,000 people from the VA, and they'll tell you they love veterans while they're doing it. The firing of 80,000 people from the VA, among other things, will be the firing of tens of thousands of veterans themselves who hold those jobs. But they're going to try it, see how much of that they can get away with. They said today they want to fire 40,000 plus people from the IRS. Because what better way to grind a country into dust than to eliminate the means by which it collects funds so it can continue to operate? If last night's State of the Union and the latest pronouncements from the president's top campaign donor are anything to go by, it would seem that they're about to come next for Social Security. So the VA, the IRS, Social Security. And then tonight there's this. Reopening the immigration prison where they locked up all the little kids. Quote, the Trump administration is reopening a sprawling detention center in South Texas for migrant families facing deportation, resuming the practice of detaining children 4 years after the Biden administration ended it. Everywhere they go, everything they have tried to do, they are running up against opposition and annoyance. They are running up against their own stupidity. They are running up against their own ignorance. They are running up against the law. They are running up against journalists figuring out what they are doing. They are running up against the revelation that the American people really dislike what they are doing, and people are willing to let that be known. They are running up against constituents, even Republican constituents, people who live in bright red districts and states, telling their members of Congress and their senators how much they dislike what Trump is doing. They're running up against people protesting against it. The pushback all over this country has thrown down stop strips in the road to flatten their tires and at least slow them down and sometimes to stop them. And it has happened everywhere. And none of it has been easy, given the scale of what they are trying to do to this country. But the feedback loop here is very clear 6 weeks in. It is working.
Folks, it's time to use Donald Trump's tools against him. He loves the rally. He loves the town hall. Whether it's him, he encourages other Republicans to do it because in his experience, it's what made him president, right? It's what made him president. He had these big events in 2015, 2016. Like, to his credit, the only other person up until that point who did that effectively was Barack Obama, right? And as much as Trump will never admit it, he copied the kind of event style of Barack Obama, right? Trying to create the same kind of energy, but among the worst parts of the country rather than the best parts of the country. And so now it's really eating him up inside that the town hall, the rally, has become the venue in which he's been most criticized, right? Because regular Americans, not fancy, downtown elites in New York and in LA, the people that Trump likes to stereotype against, not the political insiders, not the people like me who talk on the internet, but regular folks in some of the redder parts of the country and in some of the redder parts, rural areas of blue states that are a lot more red or purple than people think. They are coming out and absolutely shutting Trump down. And the reason Trump is sort of reeling in Elon at least a little bit is not because he actually disagrees with what Elon is doing, but because he hates being yelled at by people like you.